Rev up your engine! Alright, today we got a Toyota, a little bit beat up, but they got it for free from the mother-in-law, so you can't complain, right? The problem with this car is it's probably got air in the line. That's air inside the brake lines, because a while back he worked on the car and he made the mistake of stepping on the brake when the front caliper was off and it popped out of the hole. So air got in the system and he can't get it out. Now I'll open the hood and explain the whole system to you. Now this caliper popped out, air got inside the system. It's got a spongy brake. As you can see, this is new, put a brand new brake master cylinder on it, but it's still spongy, so he figures he's got air in the system. Now here's the problem. This is a modern enough car, 2009, that it has anti-lock brake system, and this anti-lock brake system is impossible to bleed the air out of unless you got a fancy mechanic scan tool, like I have, of course, being a fancy mechanic, or at least being a mechanic. You'll see I'm going to bleed it. There's all kinds of steps that have to be done. Now, before you do anything, realize one thing about air in the brake system. Air has to get in there somehow. In this case, he popped, the piston came right out of the caliper, so you know there's air in the system. There's no doubting that. He did it himself. He knows air got in the system. And it got in when he was doing a brake job. You want to make sure you don't get air in the system when you do a brake job. But let's say he had no work done on the car whatsoever. And if that was the case, he wouldn't have any air in the system unless there was something wrong, and bleeding the brakes would not fix the problem. Let's say the master cylinder was bad and it leaked and it pumped air in the system. But if you bled the air out, that's not going to fix the underlying problem. I get a lot of people over the years say, Scotty, could you bleed my brakes? And I'll say, why? Well, they're getting kind of spongy. And I'll say, have you had any work done? They say, no. I said, well, bleeding brakes isn't going to fix anything, because if there is air, there's something wrong that's putting air into the system. And you may not even have air in your system. If you have a bad brake master cylinder, it goes bad, it can get mushy, but you won't have any air in the system. If you have a problem with the ABS system, this is the big modulator, there's a bunch of valves in here. It can make them mushy because it can open valves when it's not supposed to make the brakes go to the floor. Now, I am going to bleed the brakes on this car because he told me he popped the piston out of the caliper, air got in. But before I do that, I'm going to put the scan tool on to check to see if there are any codes for the brake system, because it could be more than coincidental, but there could be a problem in the anti-lock braking system or something that's causing it to be mushy. So in goes the scan tool. We'll turn the key on. So the idiot lights are on. Now I'll probably find something else wrong, because it does have 201,719 miles on it. Now we'll move the seat back a little so we got more room. Look at the scan tool. I don't feel crushed here. And we'll do diagnosis. Connected already. Avalon GSX 2009 V6 engine. Okay. And we're going to do a full scan. While it's scanning, we can see, hey, the leather's still in pretty good shape. Back seat's got a ton of room. These are luxury cars in their day. I mean, it's a very luxurious car, and they just got it free from the mother-in-law. Okay, now the engine, ignition coil stuff, history, we don't care. They're not complaining about any problems, but the ABS system does have a code. See what the trouble code is for the ABS. And while it's doing that, realize these cars are extremely complex. You don't start messing around with them without checking everything first, because if something electronically is funky with the ABS system, all bets are off and you'll have to fix that first. Now this code is a rather strange code. It's very generic. If anything goes wrong in the car system itself, it will trip that code, because if the computer sees a problem, it will often turn the ABS system off, and then it will trip that code. And the information here, the inspection procedure is, since the trouble is the engine control system but not the brake system, check DTCs for engine. And you see, it had problems with the ignition coil. At some point in time somebody fixed it, didn't even reset it. But an ignition code problem, it'll run bad, it will turn the ABS off, it'll trip the C1201. We're going to end up bleeding the brake system, but for now we're going to do a quick erase and erase everything on the vehicle. So when we take it for a road test, we'll see if anything comes back. They're all gone, so now there's this cool hotel to bleed the brake system out. That's one thing, when I step on the brake, it sinks to the ground, but when I pump it, not only does it get hard, but you hear this noise. And that noise is coming from the ABS modulator. There's probably air inside there. Very hard to get out, but this procedure should fix all that. To air bleeding, purges air from the hydraulic brake system. You have to have a machine like this. So it says pump the brakes till they're hard. They're nice and hard now. So we'll put our rod in here. Now it's nice and tight with the power seat. With an 8mm socket, we'll blade the brake. It tells us to do the left front first, so first we'll do the left front. No, to the left front, so we'll turn the wheel so we can access it better. We gotta pump it again, make it hard. There, that's hard. See, the brake's on, it doesn't move. Then we'll do the left front. See, the fluid's coming out. Tighten it up. Then as the machine says, right rear, then left rear. So I'll go to the right rear, we'll do that. Okay, now we'll do the left rear. See what else it has in store for us. We're gonna run the operation. Now it's doing its bleeding. Connect a vinyl tube to the bleeder plug at the right front or the right rear. We'll do the right front. And it says do not press brake pedal for any of the other ones. So, I actually got a bottle of brake fluid, and this is a special tube that fits right onto the brake bleeder. We'll open up the bleeder valve with nothing on it. There's no pressure on it. We'll get out a little tube and we'll stick it up there. It's all hooked up. I put wood under here so it's deep enough to get in the brake fluid container. And as it says, don't press the brake pedal, so we'll do next. Now it's setting it up, and when we push next, it does its job. Repeat this until all the fluid is bled out. Press yes to repeat it. Sure, so I'm doing this 6 times. And make sure you don't run on a brake fluid, but we can see it's already still way up here. It hasn't gotten low yet. We're doing the same process for all the other 3 wheels, one at a time, so that the machine automatically will bleed all of the air out of this ABS system if it's in there. Then we follow the rest of the directions. We tighten the plug, release the brake pedal, and wait for 20 seconds. Now you can see it's a very complex process, and while it's been running, now the engine's running a little bit rough, so we're gonna go back into data. You can see now it's got 3 engine codes, and we turned them off. So obviously there is a problem in the engine system. Before P0352, that's a trip in the ABS code, not a problem with the ABS. The ignition coil. Well, it's gonna need a number 2 ignition coil. We'll go get one. We'll see how the brakes work while we're driving it. Try those brakes out, and lo and behold, stop great now. Hey, you notice the VSC and its traction control light's on, but that is because the check engine light is on for the number 2 ignition coil. That might confuse a lot of people what the software in a Toyota is. If you have a problem like ignition coil, it automatically turns off all those other systems, then those stupid lights come on. Well, the brakes work perfectly fine now. We're just going to change the ignition coil on number 2 cylinder. Goes the stupid beauty cover. This is number 2 right here. Just unbolts and unclips and comes out. There's the old one. Get the new one out of the box. Push it in. But this has a gasket. You don't want a double gasket. To the old one, the gasket stuck on here. So get that out. The new one came with its own gasket. Don't double gasket it, or it might not contact it. It'll run weird. And you just bolt it back on. It's a 10mm. Plug the other one in. That was in the way. You unplug that. There we go. We'll start her up. It sounds good. That's a Chevy truck with no exhaust going by. That's not the Toyota. Traction control light is now off. That's how Toyota software is. The check engine light for the bad coil, we turn the traction control light and other things on because the software just turns the systems off so the lights come on. It's a software thing with Toyota. There was nothing wrong with the traction control. It was the coil that we're shorting out and giving it a misfire. So what did we learn today? Well, we learned that ABS systems are immensely complex. To bleed the air out, you gotta have a fancy scan tool like I had. Once you have it, it's easy peasy, but you'll never get the air out. Strangely enough, he took it to a mechanic and the guy claimed he bled the brake, but obviously he didn't have the equipment to know how to use it. So you never want to get air in one of these systems. You're gonna have to pay a guy like me to get it out. You'll never get it out yourself, but you can easily fix that misfire by just changing the ignition coil like we did. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Big Sess says, I got a muffled Rattle at 1200 RPM on my 2016 Pathfinder. It's got 130,000 kilometers on it. Okay, so that's like what, 70,000 miles or something? About 12 months ago, my car made a muffled dull rattle. Sounds like it's coming out of the center of the car somewhere. What do you think it is? It's one of 2 things. Pray. It's just a catalytic converter. Catalytic converters have a steel outer shell. Inside they have ceramic shell, and then there's all these honeycomb features inside that the exhaust goes through that burn the on-burn hydrocarbons with precious material like platinum, right? When they break down, the metal shell and the ceramic starts rattling inside. Now, if your car runs okay, it doesn't overheat, because if it clogs up inside. The temperature will get hot on your temperature gauge because that backs up hot exhaust, right? Or you won't be able to go over 50 miles an hour because it can't breathe out fast enough. If it's not doing that, it's running okay, you can live with it, right? All you got to do is go under there. You'll see the catalytic converters. Go under there when it's cold. Get yourself a rubber mallet and hit them. If they go rattle, rattle, when you hit them, you know they're broken. And like I said, you can drive them that way if you want, as long as it runs okay and doesn't overheat and you don't get an inefficient catalytic converter check engine light come on, right? Now, if that's not it, unfortunately, it would mean your horrible Nissan CVT transmission is breaking down, which often happens. Now, if it isn't, the catalytic converter's rattling. Do my video, Finding the Source of Car Noise, is Scotty. Watch it on YouTube. You get one of these machines, you pay a mechanic who has one, you can buy a machine for 80 bucks on Amazon like that, and put it on the CVT transmission with the headphones and drive it. And if you hear that rattling loud, it's the transmission. That's how those Nissan CVTs are horrible. They break down all the time. Now, you say it's running okay now, but if it is the transmission, in a period of time, it will not be. So I would say it's 2016. Get rid of it fast. Well, you can still get money for it. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.